Your presence has been detected and recorded. Thank you.
Okay, what we have here is the first incarnation of my flight sim. Here I have a master panel that has a few of the things that you would see in a Cessna 172 or other GA aircraft. It's got key start, it's got 2 switches for my alternator and battery. I have fuel pump, beacon, landing, taxi, nav, strobe, pitot heat, and master avionics. I actually need 2 switches for avionics. I have switches up here that I can use, and they're wired right in through a USB into the computer. I also have an iPad set up here that I can run as a Garmin 750, or I can even run it as a G1000 panel if I want to. I can run a lot of stuff on Air Manager, which is a program that runs wirelessly, which is a whole other thing. I'll do a video about how to set that up. I won't actually have these gauges showing. That was just for a test setup that we did, and I'll actually be running a Garmin, maybe like a G1000 or a G750. I have Cytek's version of what is similar to the Bendix King radio stack, and then here I have autopilot, I have flaps, trim, auto throttle. Then I have a Cytek yoke here, which is pretty good. I might upgrade that soon to a Redbird or something else. I don't know. I've seen Yoko has some pretty good ones, but I'm not sure exactly what to do about that yet. A lot of people try to keep these things looking exactly like a Cessna or another GA aircraft, but really you have to get real with it, and it is a simulator that runs a computer program. So I have a keyboard right here that I can access, and it's got a mouse that if I need to, I can X-plane. To speak with air traffic, you need to be able to click on the air traffic stuff. So I've actually got it set up to push to talk here, but then to do a couple things you have to be able to use the mouse, so that helps. This screen here isn't set up. It's actually going to be the panel for a helicopter setup that I have, which is right here. It's got, this is the collective here, cyclic, and then you can see the rudder pedals, and it's got a seat, which is the same seat that I've got here. I actually bought this sim online. It wasn't cheap, but it's going right here. The rudder pedals will be down there. Right here there'll be a console. It's got a couple of switches on it. I'm not exactly sure what switches I'll put on there. And then here I'll have a couple of dials so you can set heading and things like that on this monitor. And then here I'm going to put 3 potentiometers that you can use for setting your heading and doing a few things like that. Along with these switches here, it should help to make the flights go smoother. There's also switches here that I use for stuff. You have trim here. Even though I've got trim and flap set over here, I don't really use that so much because I just got used to doing this, because before I had this, I was already using the sim here. I also have this set up here for the TPM. I bought this TPM from GoFlight. It took forever to get here. It took, I don't know, at least 6 weeks to get here, so I haven't put it in yet. This monitor was actually supposed to be a touchscreen. I don't know what happened. It is not a touchscreen, and we spent a lot of money on it, so we're going to return that. We're just going to do a non-touchscreen monitor here, because for a lot cheaper I can just add knobs and dials, which makes it more realistic anyway. Down here I have the fuel selector, which works well. It's got an emergency fuel cutoff switch here. That works well. I've got the Cytek TPM here, and then I also have the Cytek rudder pedals down here. Over here I have just a regular boat seat, and I have the surround sound hooked up to inside this box so that it's kind of just out of the way because it's kind of big. And then I have speakers. I'm also going to add some switches up here so that you can use this as the autopilot, which would normally be up here like on the 737 or a big Airbus. You can use that here, or you can use this for a different, maybe a Garmin 430 or whatever you need to. Right now I'm only able to control that screen, that screen, that screen, and that screen independently, so I can only control 4 screens and have 4 different images. The iPad is still able to do something independent of all this because it runs through Air Manager, which runs Wi-Fi to the computer. But this actually, I was just realizing I can run on the same as this, because for now, if I run the same instruments over here, it'll look a little bit different because I have the screen sideways here because it'll be set up for a helicopter console, along with the few gauges that I have here. And then this front window here will be obviously just out the windshield. So here you would see the compass on the 172 and, you know, just the horizon and all that sort of stuff. Here along these edges, I'll be putting I'll be adding to this just a little bit so that it looks like you're looking completely out of the plane. I have kind of a visual trick that I'm gonna pull there, so it'll look like you're completely looking out of the plane, like these are windows. I'm also going to add a window here, well, another monitor here, and another monitor here, so that when you're flying a plane like a Kit Fox or a Super Cub or something like that, you can look out and down around you. And X-Plane has made it so easy to send images all over to your different monitors, so it's really convenient. And with this stick here, I'm going to set it up because this can move back. Normally this will come up and move over and be here because it's a throttle and collective, so it can move. So you can use this actually to fly like old World War II planes that fly by stick, or even like a Super Cub that flies by stick. You can fly that with this setup too. You won't be able to fly the Super Cub from the left seat, but you'll still be able to fly it and have a fairly legitimate immersive experience with that. But a helicopter flies from the right seat anyway. If you're flying a helicopter from this area here, it'll look immersive because you'll be able to see out these screens here. So basically that whole wall, you'll be able to look out and down. And then this cockpit will be set up to look like the panel on a helicopter of your choice, really, because there's so many options available on all the programs. The outside of this thing is kind of a challenge right now. This is how I have the monitor. Like I said, I'll have things going across here, so it'll look like when you look out, it'll look like just part of the plane and then outside the window. It's kind of a visual trick that I saw other people doing online. And then back here I have the monitor mounted like this, just on a couple of 2x4s. It seems like maybe a little bit of overkill, but you know, you don't want it to fall. It's a super thin TV. I got it at Walmart while they were still super cheap for the Super Bowl. Here I've got my power set up, which is almost full, but I'm almost done needing power, I think. This is our new computer. It's our second attempt at getting this thing to cooperate and act like a gaming computer. The first one we got wasn't powerful enough. This one's more powerful, not by an incredible amount, well, double, but it's still not a super computer by any means. It ought to do the job. If not, we'll have to beef it up until it does what we need it to, because we're kind of far into this project not to get it right. This here will all be one big door. I've got these clips up here because I keep plastic on here, but we were working on it today, trying to make some progress. And then the whole inside here will be all painted black so that it doesn't distract anything or reflect any light, even though it's pretty much closed off. I've got this fan that I'm going to set up on a switch, on a toggle switch, and I'll be putting that toggle switch here, one for the fan and one for the overhead lights. When this thing is completely skinned, it's going to be enclosed, and you're going to have issues with carbon monoxide. So what I did was here, where I have the back touching, I'm going to leave this open so the air can go up and out. And then up on top here, I have a bunch of holes for bad air to exhaust out. I'm going to have this turn on with the switch that's on the panel, and it'll be put into the floor, something like this, and draw air up, and then there it's going to split off and go two directions, and it'll blow air down here and down here, and then hopefully that'll circulate the air enough so that there's no bad air issues. So there'll be ways for the air to vent static, which means that there will be no fan, just the heat change from inside and outside the box will draw the air up and out. And I'm also going to add a few more holes here. Originally, this was supposed to be a projector. The whole front of this was supposed to be a projector. I got a roll of 100 inches of projection screen, but I didn't end up going that way because I didn't build this thing right. What I needed to do was have a screen that could be closer here so that when you looked off to the edge, all you saw was the screen disappear instead of seeing the edge of the screen. If you see the edge of the screen, you can see that you're looking at a monitor screen. If you can see nothing but the edge of the screen and then the inside of the airplane, then it looks like you're just flying. But you need there was supposed to be a projector up here, and I even have a projector, and I bought another short throw projector, but you need a really short throw projector, which is expensive. And so for about half the price of a good short throw projector, I was able to get this. And when it's all said and done, I think this is actually going to work better because it's a smart TV and it's going to last longer, and it's got more options available as far as how to get it a signal and what I can do with it. I have the remote over here. I think I'm going to maybe add a drawer here for things like remotes, wireless mice. What's the plural of mouse for a computer? Mice? I've got 2 mouses for my computer. This thing here is probably going to be set up somewhere close by. I'm not exactly sure where I'm going to put that yet. I thought about maybe making an area that I can have like flip out or something like that, but then when I decided to add the helicopter cockpit here, it kind of took up the room that I was going to use for that. I had originally thought about making 2 sims, one for the helicopter, one for the general aircraft, but then looking online and watching what other people were doing, I realized I had a lot more options available to me. I watched a guy named On the Glide Slope who will never return any of my messages, which is cool. But he was the first one that I saw with a setup, something like this. And I got really excited. I actually was going to make a half pipe for one of my kids. And when I saw that thing, this here is actually the top of the half pipe ramp, and the floor is the ramp itself. So I wrote a message on the glide slope and said that I was going to turn my kid's skateboard ramp into a sim when I saw what he had done, and then I did. So we're pretty far into it. This is the outside of it. I'm going to do some body work, some auto type body work on the outside here and get this all put together. There's the rest of the plywood for skinning it and getting that all taken care of. The only reason I haven't skinned it yet is because I want to finish it all up and get everything working well so that we can access all the wires and things like that so that we don't have to open anything back up. So on the outside I used just a thin hardwood that I had to bend here. I'm going to Bondo that and then sand it all out so you won't be able to see any of those seams. Back here I'm thinking about maybe putting an air conditioner because I live in Phoenix and it gets so hot here. Even the smallest air conditioner will cool off the tiny inside of this cockpit. And then the sides here will all get skinned. I originally cut this so that it went out and over so that the monitor could fit inside here. I think instead what I'm going to do is just go full 2x4 straight down, and then this door will just stick out. I mean, it is what it is. On the inside it has to look as close to the inside of an aircraft as possible. On the outside it doesn't. So I'm not going to concern myself with doing that much extra work trying to bend it. This wood doesn't bend as easy as I thought it would. So instead of trying to bend wood to fit this type of deal here, I'm going to just square this up, do that, and then when I paint the whole thing and Bondo it, you won't be able to tell because I'm going to put a big sticker on the top there, and I have like vendor stickers that I've been collecting with all the stuff that we got, the SciTech and GoPros and stuff like that we've got for inside here. On the front here, this is going to be one big sheet of the same thin hardwood, and then I'll just make it so that you can open it. So if you need to access the plugs or whatever, you can. It'll probably be just 4 screws. There's the monitor in the door. There's the front monitor. There's the power supply, which everything will end up running through the bottom. Underneath here, all the surround sound and stuff will go and be tucked in underneath there. Over this whole part here will just be one big sheet of plywood that can be taken off easily. So if you need to access this, you can, and it's a light sheet of plywood. It's really thin, so if you have to remove it to access the plugs or anything like that, it's not going to be a problem. Maybe I'll even put some sort of a door here just for the plugs, or if I can, maybe I'll move this whole plug thing over here. I don't know. It's still kind of all a work in progress. That's why I didn't put anything on the front part of this yet, except for the plastic, so I can see where things actually end up. We had the CPU that we bought right here, but it wasn't powerful enough, and it didn't have enough monitor ports to run all, 8 monitors that we have now, plus the 3 or so that we want to add to it. Originally we tried using this TV, but it just didn't have what it takes. It's an old TV, and I think we're gonna end up just putting that one out front for donation or something, because it's had its time. This monitor here is actually brand new. It's 55-inch smart TV, so you can cast and do all sorts of stuff with it. And with this kind of setup, you never know what you might need. I wanted to get touchscreen, but for now we're kind of just priced out of that. So I guess the only touchscreens that I have are this and this. But with the addition of, really the only reason I wanted touchscreen on this monitor was because I wanted to run Air Manager on here and be able to turn the dials on the controls, like on heading and things like that. So by adding the dials here that will control the heading and stuff on the helicopter, I can either have those control these, or I can add a few of those knobs over here too, and then I don't even need a touch screen, which is convenient because the touchscreen was really expensive, and you can get these monitors, regular monitors, for fairly cheap. Right now the seat is not fixed down, but to adjust the seat, all you have to do is move the box back and forth. It's really kind of heavy, so I'll put a handle on it, and you can just you just kind of shove it back and forth. And if you're shorter or taller by it, you can't really adjust it more than a couple inches, maybe 5 or 6 inches, but really in adjusting a seat 5 or 6 inches is a lot, so it's gonna have to work. So with the helicopter here, this whole cockpit will be filled up, but if you wanted to have someone flying co-pilot with you, they could still sit. The seat is the same for the helicopter, so they could still sit in here and be part of your flight. You can use this kind of as the autopilot panel on the bigger aircraft, like the 747s, Airbus, things like that, because I'm going to have some switches up here that you can access. So basically it'll work as a complete trainer for like navigation on general aircraft, plus just so much more.